Definitely another 1-2 for Red Bull in my opinion, and Max winning the race. I think Perez, he's really just got to keep doing what he's doing, which is finishing second and having that Red Bull on the front row and have it on the podium.
That he has a lot to prove. What do we think that the realistic expectation for Checo is? Because he's really not gonna be the number one with a Red Bull. We know that. Can he challenge Max? Hello and welcome to the On Track GP podcast right here on DR Sports. I'm Abby. I'm joined by Matisse and Rich this morning. Lovely to see you both.
Brilliant.
Are we excited for Melbourne?
Yeah, I love Melbourne.
I do love
an
Melbourne.
awesome race.
And Danny Rick's obviously there as well.
Home
so
race.
It's his home race.
Return of the Honey Badger.
Indeed. The shoe drink off.
I'll tell you what, the Honey Badger needs to have a good race.
He does.
Yeah,
He's under some pressure. I'm a do not Perez patrol. I'm gonna find something for Ricky soon.
Well, yeah, we need to think about what that is.
Yeah. I'm gonna think.
Okay,
during
think
the
on
pod.
it.
I'll be back.
We've had a week off, so we're going to have a look in depth before we get going, all about the Australian Grand Prix. Albert Park, it is in Melbourne, 5.278 kilometres, that's 3.280 miles. It's 14 turns as well. The lap race record is 1.20 by Sergio Perez. That was in 2023, set by him in the Red Bull. The Australian Grand Prix was held twice in a row between 1995 and 96. 1995 season hosting the finale, and the Australian Grand Prix in Adelaide, and the first round of the 1996 season was also held in Melbourne. For the Australian Grand Prix. I feel like maybe it should be like the first one because it's so far.
Yeah, it always used to be. It was always a really good curtain raiser. You know, I think until obviously we all know what Formula One's like, money talks, Bahrain coming into it, and the Middle Eastern countries. But it feels like a really good traditional season opener, or when it was a season opener.
Yeah, obviously now they do testing in Bahrain as well now. But I always loved Australian Grand Prix starting, because when I used to play the game, that was always the first race. And it's
Melbourne.
such a lovely track, man. I love it.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it's one of my favourite ones as well. Last year, we had a lot of red flags in Melbourne. It's a very early start for anyone who is new to F1. It's about I think it's a 4:30 wake up, isn't
Yeah,
it?
I don't know. I think the time difference is like 11 hours or something.
Yeah, it's long. It's definitely long.
Very difficult.
Having been there, it's very long. But it is worth it. It's a really good one, and it always creates drama. Last year, we had multiple red flags, all towards the end of the race. I think you and I were doing it together, that race.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and it was like we were about to go home, and it was like 7 o'clock in the morning. Then we had a red flag, and we were still here at half 9. So that's always exciting. But looking into this Red Bull, obviously they've been dominant over the first two races. What do you think we're going to see, Rich, this week?
I think it's, to be honest, you'd be very naive to think that it was going to be anything different. Melbourne is a very different circuit to Bahrain and Jeddah. It's a lot more, whereas Jeddah's kind of an artificial street circuit, Albert Park is actually a proper street circuit. It is literally, it's like using the public roads in Greenwich Park or Hyde Park or something like that. So the characteristics of what you need from a car are very different, but Red Bull just being so dominant, you can't see that not continuing here.
Yeah, do you reckon the same for Sergio Perez? Because he's had a really good start, which he also similarly had last season, and then tailed off. What do we think that we can expect from him this weekend?
Definitely another 1-2 for Red Bull in my opinion, and Max winning the race. I think Perez, he's really just got to keep doing what he's doing, which is finishing second and having that Red Bull on the front row and have it on the podium. Which is what we expect, because with the car that strong, and yeah, Ferrari have made slight improvement, you could say, and they're the next team up, but there's still a gap. It's quite evident there's a gap there between the two cars. I think Perez has just got to keep doing what he's doing, because obviously I think his contract runs out this season. So there's some pressure on him, because there was Norris links, and obviously now Hamilton's moving to Ferrari in 2025. So maybe Red Bull will want to take a look at that seat. I think Liam Lawson, we're going to get to later, is very, very unlucky to not be sitting in a seat as well. So there's a lot of talented drivers in that group that could take his position. If he tails off like he did last year, I don't think he's going to get away with it.
Well, it's a huge season for him. I mean, he has openly said, Sergio Perez, that he wants to continue in F1. He says that he loves racing. He loves that his son gets to watch him racing as well. So we've said there's so many moving parts that are going to come next summer that he has a lot to prove. What do we think that the realistic expectation for Checo is? Because he's really not going to be the number one with a Red Bull. We know that. Can he challenge Max?
I think you just kind of have to be realistic and say no. I mean, Max has just clearly got everything around him. He's got the unit around him with the team, and everything is going in one direction there. But if Checo is always there, finishing, within touching distance of Max, constantly in P2, and a safe pair of hands, ready to pick up the pieces when something does go wrong with Max, which it obviously will in such a long season. There'll be reliability issues or something will happen. Then what more could you actually want for your number 2 driver?
Yeah.
If they finish, it's like what I said last year. He was under pressure last year, but he came second in the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
So Red Bull got everything they want, and as far as he was concerned, it was mission accomplished. And that he seems to be a lot more relaxed this year. He doesn't seem to be as, openly aggressive in his body language, his interviews and stuff. I think he's kind of accepted. He just needs to do his job.
Yeah.
And he'll be in a good position. And so far this year, he's actually done it pretty well.
I think last year, there was a hope that he could actually challenge Max. So that's kind of like where the adrenaline came from, is like, oh, I'm going to really go aggressive. And like you said, we're going to really go for it. And then he realized, actually, I mean, the Formula One world spoke for him. You're not on that level, and now it's kind of like a humbler. And it's like last season, I get it. Obviously, he did get the result required, but it's almost like getting output or GA. Like, we saw the match, we saw what you did. Like, you weren't good enough over the course of the season. You're lucky that Max is like ridiculously consistent in his performance and just kept winning races. He's literally won nearly every single race. So Red Bull could finish in that position. But I think this year, he's just got to, just do his job, stay in that second position, and he'll be just fine. It reminds me of like Bottas Hamilton. Like, there was never any competition. Bottas was never going to do what Rosberg tried to do. Yeah, it was very obvious. Just do your job, and that's it.
Okay. Let's have a look at Ferrari. Charles Leclerc has said that Ferrari is the team that have improved the most in the last 6 or 7 months, and they're taking the right steps in terms of challenging Red Bull. Fred Vasseur has also said that Carlos Sainz is free to decide on whether he is ready to return this weekend after suffering that appendicitis issue, or if we'll see Oliver Bearman again. I'd like to see Oliver Bearman again, which I actually love Carlos Sainz, by the way. So I feel like he actually gets a really bad rep being at Ferrari, and I want him to go somewhere and be a star first driver. Yeah. But I really want to see more of Oliver.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, after Jeddah, we've all seen the rumblings. I think it's going to be a matter of when, not if, Oliver Bearman's going to be in full-time Formula One in the future. So, I can't imagine Carlos missing it, to be honest. I mean, appendicitis, it's not a huge operation. And you saw he was back in the paddock in Jeddah, and he's had 2 weeks to recover. It's not back-to-back races, and also physically, the Australian Grand Prix isn't one of the more demanding races. So I think I'd be very surprised if he isn't back. But of course, Oliver Bearman's going to be there because Formula 2 is there as well, so he will be on site if he's needed. Again, I think we all like to see Oliver Bearman. It was quite a cool talking point, but. I think Sainz, we have a new vigor with him this year because he's fighting for a seat for next year. He needs to go out and prove himself that he can take, say, that Mercedes seat, for example. Yeah. So I'm in two minds. I'd be amazed if Sainz missed it, but I'm quite excited to see him come back.
And he looked good in that first race, didn't he? He had a really good week.
Did a great job. Yeah. You finished ahead of Hamilton and Norris. You have definitely got to take it. Yeah. You definitely got to look at that. I mean, my thing with Oliver Bearman is he's clearly not going to be at Ferrari next season because obviously Hamilton's moving and Leclerc is the golden child. So they're gonna have to, or he's gonna have to look at what seat can he go into. This is kind of why I just want to usher out some of the oldies. Like, if you're not performing like Alonso, if you don't have the capabilities of Hamilton to potentially challenge again in the right car, please move aside.
So we're making an exception for Hamilton then?
Yes, of course, because I still believe he's a top driver that can compete. The drivers that I won't make an exception for is the Danny Ricciardos of this world.
Well, the one thing I would say, and I'm not trying to stir the pot, but the one thing I would say is, okay, if we're trying to get out the old guard, but we're saying we'll keep Lewis.
And Alonso.
But Lewis in particular, I mean, George Russell so far has been better in the Mercedes. I know we're only basing it off of 2 races, but even towards last season, I wouldn't say that Lewis was setting the world on fire.
If it wasn't for his previous reputation and you only looked at the last 2 years, you would say that Lewis is decent. You wouldn't go that have him in the same aura that he's held him because of obviously what he's achieved. He's clearly one of the greatest of all time. There's no question. But you're right. I think I'd like to see some of the new guard come in, and as you say rightly, if you're performing on the level of Alonso, okay, then it's hard. It's hard not to have you in because he's at an elite level at the minute. But there is a lot of very good kids coming through. We've got Liam Lawson sat on the sidelines twiddling his thumbs. I mean, what more did he need to do last year?
It's true. It's true. It's only a matter of time. We'll move on to Mercedes. Is that still your team? Because you've got McLaren on. I've heard you're going to be a Ferrari fan when Lewis goes. Typical Chelsea fan, just going where the money is. What are you going to do? Are we still Mercedes for this season because Lewis is there?
I'm rapidly falling out of love with Mercedes because look at the car. I mean, they're just not at a level. They're not ready to compete. They're not even near podium positions right now. They're struggling. They look like they've actually got slightly worse. So with Mercedes, I mean, we are looking at our options. You know, we're making a move in 2025. I think it's definitely going to be to Ferrari. That red jacket looks nice. The light is shining on it nicely. I could definitely wear that. But I'm always going to like McLaren because of obviously that's where Lewis started. It's a British team, and I just got love for McLaren. Do you know what I mean? But Ferrari, yeah, we will be moving for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mercedes, they revealed they're trialing some new experiments for the W15 in free practice in Melbourne this weekend. They're going to try and cure the low fuel bouncing issue and other problems that they observed in Jeddah. And just speaking about Carlos Sainz, there has been rumours that he's already in talks to replace Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes.
I mean, I'm sure Sainz is talking to everybody, as I'm sure all the teams are. You know, the immediate seat you would think about is that Mercedes seat if you're in Sainz's position. And to be honest, he wouldn't be a bad option for someone like Mercedes. You know, he has a lot of experience now. He's been with a lot of very high level teams.
Really good driver.
Exactly. I think he is a little bit underrated. So I think that would be a good move for both. But the Albert Park circuit, it's a street circuit, and so it's very high downforce levels. And after watching that onboard where Lewis was so bad compared to Norris in the high-speed corners in Jeddah, I can't see Mercedes being able to make any improvements on the high downforce circuits until we get to Europe and they can bring in some updates, just because that's clearly the weakness of their car. If we had somewhere like Monza, which is really low downforce, it's not as critical, you can maybe say Mercedes will be there, but that onboard footage in Jeddah was just depressing. It was. I think
they were so bad in the straights.
They were. Yeah, the whole thing. I think they're going to struggle quite a lot this weekend.
So we're probably thinking again, you know, a really poor weekend for Mercedes. Probably somewhere between 6th and 10th.
I think until we get to Barcelona, Mercedes are going to struggle.
Oh, that's not a good situation to be in if you are Mercedes. And also for Carlos Sainz, whatever, I mean, sure, he's going to have loads of options on the table, but he also needs to weigh up what's best for him in terms of the car.
Exactly. I mean, you never know. Mercedes have the power to be able to go because they have the financial power and they also have the reputation and the resources to be able to go and get, quite frankly, whoever they want. You know, they might try and poach someone like Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri. And then that would open the door up for Sainz to return to McLaren. And at the minute,
which would be a great option.
You would actually rather be in a McLaren than you would a Mercedes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I actually think last race they were a bit unlucky because obviously they didn't get the safety car that they wanted. Yeah. Lewis was holding off Piastri really, really well for a long time. And obviously him and Norris went deeper into the race and they had to do opposite strategy to their teammates, George and Piastri. But if they'd got that safety car, maybe they could have got a better finish in the end and a better points tally. But that's what they did. That was their strategy. They already had one in the race. They just banked on another one. They never got it. But it's a weird one because although the result looks really poor, I think it was actually a good performance from Lewis up against Piastri, defending him for that long on those tyres. But in the end, they just didn't get what they needed.
I think that's another thing though with this race. Like Australia is either a really boring race or a really crazy race. It's never anything in the middle. Like we saw about the red flags you mentioned last year, and then we've had so many other incidents as well. That it is a sort of race where you could take a strategic gamble, and that might be the only way Mercedes can get a result here.
Okay. Moving on to Aston Martins, they noted how they're hoping to beat Red Bull by focusing on long-term development of the AMR24 through the season to tackle the mid-season drop-off that they had last year. I think
you need to rephrase that. Alonso beating Red Bull.
I think that we need to not just say Aston as a whole, because I don't think Lance Stroll is going to beat any Red Bull.
No.
Maybe not even the drink. Lance Stroll, he has spoken out after his race-ending crash at the Saudi GP and said he's now focused on a reset before the weekend gets underway. I feel like the expectation for Aston really just relies on Alonso. That's it. Like we're always looking at him because we think he's a fantastic driver, and he is, you know, former world champ and still in his prime, as you mentioned earlier, Rich. So anything he does, we're going to be like, that's pretty amazing. If he's finishing in and around 5th or 6th, we still think that's a pretty good weekend for an Aston, isn't it?
So for me, right, if Aston Martin are serious about actually competing at the top end, they should be replacing Stroll with Sainz.
But we say this every single
at the
week.
end of the season. You go with an all Spaniard team.
I'd love it, but it's just not going to happen.
Now, if you don't want to make Stroll unemployed, it's not a problem, right? you make him third driver, you make him reserve driver. It's embarrassing, don't get me wrong, but Sainz is a much better driver than Stroll. It's not even a competition between the two. And then you could have two drivers, because right now you're just wasting Alonso's career, because Alonso can only do so much in one car with no teammate, no strategy kind of to go up against the other guys, because usually the teams up there have two cars. Usually Sainz and Leclerc are up there. Obviously, both the Red Bulls are up there. So if you're going to, and obviously McLaren, they've made good steps as well. They'll be up there. Both very talented drivers. If you're going to actually compete, you need two.
Yeah.
And Stroll's never going to be consistently above any of these names I've just listed. So if they were serious, and if the father is serious, it's time to relegate your son. Sainz in that Aston Martin, it would look good. It makes sense, and you know it does.
I think you're completely spot on. At some point, it's going to start to hinder them, because obviously the money that they get from the Constructors' Championship, you need two consistently scoring guys. If you had two Alonsos last year, how much more money would they have had for development this year?
Yeah.
And at some point, it's just going to turn into a downward spiral. They clearly have got a good structure, good setup, good staff and everything there, because Alonso's able to perform quite consistently now. But you need that second gunner.
Yeah, I think that we're all in agreement of that. But I think that we have to just give all credit to Alonso, because look, they've obviously developed the car, absolutely, which shocked us and surprised us all last year. But even if Alonso is, finishing P5, P6, and I think that's pretty good when you're considering how far the car has probably come, and what job that he's doing in that car.
Yeah.
McLaren, not bad point scoring in terms of the start of the season, but Lando has been quite open, saying that there hasn't been much progress, maybe that he would have liked over the winter. They're of course working hard to kind of continue the development, but the car was in a good position, wasn't it? Yeah. They didn't get their upgrades last year until after this first section of the season.
Yeah, and that's when most of the upgrades come, and I'd take quite a bit of confidence in that you have a team who quite clearly showed that they can transform a car mid-season, because they did it last year, and they're not actually that bad. If you actually disregard Red Bull, then they're actually in the battle.
They're in the pack.
They're in the pack. They'd be fighting. If you take Max and Sergio out of the race, they'd be fighting for the win of the race. So I don't think they're really that bad. I think drivers you always want to push the team as hard as you can, but I think they'll be fairly happy with their start to the season.
Yeah, I think they should be. Obviously, it's a Oscar Piastri home race as well.
Yes.
Team principal Andrea Stella has kind of said, he really wants Piastri to focus on the driving rather than being, the superstar of coming home, which I guess comes with the crowd,
with the territory.
It does, and it's obviously the same for Danny Rick, but you're looking at Oscar Piastri, who's this new star boy. He had a brilliant season last year. I think that's not going to affect his performance on the grid. I think that if anything, it's going to enhance it.
I think, to be honest, when you get to these big races, you get so used to the environment and the vibe and everything, and honestly, once you get into the car, you completely blank all of it out.
Yeah.
I think that it's annoying for the drivers, because they have so many media commitments before the event, and Oscar's just not going to get time to relax. But once the actual event starts, I don't think there'll be a problem with him. Plus, also, when have we ever seen Oscar do anything close to buckling under pressure?
No.
He's the opposite.
No. Yeah, I can't remember seeing him make
not once
a glaring mistake.
No.
Which for a rookie is remarkable.
Yeah, it is incredible. Like, he's at his home race. Once you put that helmet on, you're just gonna tunnel vision. You're just gonna be looking at the track and making sure that you put that car in the right place. I don't think you're gonna be looking at the crowd, or you're not gonna hear the noise. Like, you're gonna be so tunnel vision. So yeah, I think Oscar, listen, he's very, very talented, and if Drive to Survive is any inkling, I feel like he could be leading that team one day, because Norris seems like a very frustrated boy in that McLaren dugout. So we'll have to see how that goes.
We don't know how they edited it, guys. They're always chopping it up, aren't they?
No,
I'm more than happy for Lando to come over to Red Bull.
I know it's
Come
not
on,
like
Lando.
completely true, and it's not completely like reality, but just the frustration through Lando is just crazy. But obviously then they ended the season.
See, it's funny, isn't it? Because sometimes you think if you've got a teammate that's also, pretty decent, it's a good way to spur you on. But at the same time, it depends on the mentality, because it can really piss you off as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is my team. I don't need someone coming in here trying to do a better job than me. But it depends on how you look at it.
That's the thing, though. Like, if Aston Martin lost Fernando Alonso, it would be like catastrophic.
Yeah.
They would be in so much trouble. Honestly, if McLaren lost Lando Norris, they'd still be pretty okay, because Piastri's performing on pretty much the same level.
Yeah, exactly. But when you look at Lando and Lewis, it's kind of like similarities of two in this manner, where it's two drivers that have been in their team for longer. So their frustration and their pedigree and standing in the team is obviously higher. And then you've got like Russell and Piastri, who they must be frustrated, but they're not going to say it or show it as much, and they're just going to just kind of get on with it. So that's obviously
Well, the one thing I would say is that based on last season alone, Russell I don't think had a particularly good season.
No.
Whereas Oscar, as a rookie season, there's not many I can think of, maybe other than Max, that have come in and had the season that he had straight off the back. So
No, I think that he's. I still think that he's going to be a star for the future.
Talk about my girl.
Alpine. Alpine. It was announced that after the Saudi GP, that technical director Matt Harmon and head of aerodynamics Dirk de Beer left the team. Alpine. They're opting for a new management structure to tackle the dismal start to the season. It has been very woeful on the back of a very woeful year last year.
What is going on?
So poor. It's really bad.
Honestly, Gasly retired on the opening lap at Saudi. Ocon noted that the initial issues with the car were found by the team in December. So if they were found in December, why are we dealing with them now in March?
Yeah, exactly. And then you just have the management reshuffle and everything going on. It's almost like when Otmar got ousted. That's when everything started.
Honestly, free Otmar because he never deserved to get the sack.
He didn't.
He never deserved it.
Exactly.
He didn't.
And it just seems really depressing. It's like a depressing environment to be in.
It wasn't like that.
No,
They were high flying.
I felt like they were really on the up.
Yeah.
They were the Aston.
They had a pick between Alonso and Piastri and Gasly. And
What did they do?
Exactly. It's just I don't know. It's just so depressing. And you look and you see the drivers and you get no excitement. You can't actually see them changing it this year. And they're a factory team now with a lot of investors. And there's going to be some serious pressure to change
course.
that.
I hope they're not doing a documentary this year because that's going to be really sad.
Ryan Reynolds, one of those investors.
Travis Kelce, Trent Alexander-Arnold. There's a lot of sportsmen that are included in this.
Why
investment.
have they all gravitated to Alpine?
I don't know. That's
really strange, isn't
Obviously,
it?
Obviously, it was a cheap one to buy.
Yeah,
they're basically a consortium of celebrities that have just
that
together.
That have invested into it, but
so
they're going to
coming together.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be a project. It's like going to be like a Wrexham for F1.
Yeah.
But at some point, it's not even about necessarily the return because these are all very, very rich people.
Yeah.
But you are going to want to see something competitive at
for
least.
sure.
But this is what we've kind of spoken about before. That I feel that this year's a bit of a write-off for them, and then come the summer, there'll be a whole new driver lineup.
I mean, it's almost like they're trying to model it on Wrexham. Okay, we'll just make ourselves as terrible as possible.
Just doing a good job.
Yeah, exactly.
I really have this feeling. I keep saying it all the time. That it's going to be someone like a Checo or an Alonso that ends up there because they need the investment. They need the money that these two drivers bring in.
So you think Ocon and Gasly are both going to be leaving that team in the summer?
I think if not both, definitely one.
I agree with that.
The thing is as well, they're not best of friends.
They hate each other.
They hate each other.
Literally hate each other.
Which was such a... in hindsight, because when it first came together, I said, okay, French team, all French drivers, it all fits with the brand. But when you see the history of those two, and I didn't realize it was that deep, they really don't get along. And it's not healthy for a team.
Was it
to
Melbourne
have two
last year when they went
like
into each other?
Yeah.
That was it, right?
Yeah.
They
Double DNF. They had double DNF
from the restart.
Two races in a row last season. 0 points.
They will, but honestly, double DNFs 2 races in a row. You're lucky not to get sacked on the spot.
Well, also
Everybody
the fact
should
that
be sacked.
they DNF'd with each other.
Yeah.
Like, do you know how bad that is?
Yeah, it's shocking. It really
so
is.
bad. But I really do think they're going to have someone mega come into the seat because they're going to need them. They're going to need to try and get some good PR.
I can actually
see get some excitement. Yeah,
because they're pretty irrelevant as well. They're becoming a little bit like Alfa Romeo are. Sorry to say it.
I can see Perez in that seat for some reason.
I can see it.
Yeah. Marketing reasons.
I can see it.
Maybe
you heard it here first.
Danny Rick.
No. Anyway, we're moving on to Danny Rick for the RB. Danny Rick has noticed some flaws in the car during the Saudi Arabian GP, but noted himself and his team are working to have a very good weekend at his home event in Melbourne. Despite being linked last year for Sergio Perez's seat at Red Bull, Helmut Marko has warned Ricciardo that he now has to come up with something soon in order to ensure his own place in the sport is kept within the team. I think that we're definitely looking at him coming back into a Red Bull. That ship has absolutely sailed. Time running out.
Yeah. Ticking time bomb. Listen, I was right with Perez Patrol. I said, science, watch your seat. And then Lewis, come and take it off you. And next up, Ricciardo, watch. That's what is next. This guy is on a... Listen, when he was...
Lawson were waiting right there.
There's too many talented drivers out there. You can't be in this position.
They gave him a lifeline. Yeah. And I feel like it's not...
And if he does get dropped from this, that'll be that.
That's
he'll be done.
Do you think he becomes third driver? Maybe end up at Haas?
No, I don't think
no.
so, because you know, you have to go back quite a long time until he was on a decent level. Remember how torrid he was at
Well, yeah,
McLaren?
you probably would have to go back to Renault.
Exactly. It's a long time since he actually showed what he can do.
Yeah.
So I think that, if he loses this, that's it. He's done.
The reserve driver space should be better spent taking a driver with an upward trajectory that you're trying to kind of almost mold into your team, mold into your setup.
And it's not like Red Bull don't have a shortage of those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
I was just going to say, looking at Yuki, obviously they had a few crosswords last week as well in Jeddah. I feel like Yuki, I never feel like Yuki's seat is in doubt.
No, I think Yuki, firstly, I think he's actually doing a good job this year.
Yeah.
Secondly, there's the Honda connection. He comes with the Honda. So to be honest, if Honda are going to Aston Martin, and you know, it wouldn't surprise me to see that happen. That might be a way to get rid of Stroll.
But Stroll's not going. This is the thing.
I tell you what, silly season is going to be awfully silly.
Lawrence,
I can't wait.
Step up.
He needs to. But you're absolutely right. We can see that as a moving part.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's so much going on. I can't wait.
No,
let's look at Haas. A point for Nico Hülkenberg in Jeddah. Kevin Magnussen, he kind of held up the train of cars as well. You know, allowed his teammate to hold on for a P10. They were labelled unsportsmanlike.
That was so tactical.
It's racing. It's not. It's not. There's nothing in the rules which says you can't do it. Every other team and driver on that grid would have done exactly the same thing.
And also, I'm not being funny, but a point to Haas
It's massive.
is huge.
Yeah.
I thought they should do that more often. I think that should actually be their strategy.
Well, that might be their strategy moving forward.
Yeah, they should do that.
Yeah.
Because
they don't really care about anyone else, and I don't blame them.
No,
Haas is not about getting 2 drivers in the top 10. Anybody who can get a point is a great weekend. And if you can use one of your drivers as a buffer for the other one who qualifies better and, you know, at the moment is doing a better job, then do it.
Yeah.
I mean, the difference in positions in the Constructors' Championship is worth like $10 or $15 million.
Exactly.
So there's 15 million reasons why I'd very happily hold everybody up.
Facts.
And also,
Facts.
out of the 2 drivers, we know that Hulk is the stronger one.
Yeah.
So, you know, Kevin Magnussen's just got to have his role to play, and that's what teamwork is.
Exactly. And
teamwork makes dream
Hulkenberg,
work.
you know, he did come out and say, look, if Magnussen needs a favour, return. But I think Haas are actually this year, they're a lot better than they've seemed. I think Hulkenberg was looking good in Jeddah till the issue in qualifying. And then obviously the race was a bit of a different one with his strategy and stuff. I think Haas are actually starting to close up to Williams level in the midfield.
Well, but you know what? It'd be really interesting to see because, well, there's obviously no Gunter anymore. He said he stayed too long at the team, and it was right for wanting a change. Do you agree with that, Rich?
I agree with that. I agree with that. They kind of got a bit, you know, they just became stagnant. Almost.
Stale.
Yeah. And then Gunter became the story, which is never a good thing.
No, exactly. I mean, it was funny to watch him and Mazepin and all that jazz, but yeah, I think you're right. They need to be a bit more serious, I think, as to where they're going. Quickly looking at Stake and Williams. Stake, Audi, which of course is going to be Stake, they announced a fully fledged takeover of the Sauber company in Switzerland. It will be a full manufacturer, works, everything that works alongside Mercedes and Ferrari when it joins the grid in 2026. Super exciting. Bottas has called on Sauber to improve in both pace and execution after a dismal 2 opening rounds with pit stop issues for the team. And Zhou Guanyu has also said that you know, he's got the same concerns, and he would hope they would have been rectified before Jeddah. So hopefully they will now be rectified moving into Melbourne. But again, we're kind of just sitting here,
we're just waiting.
Waiting. Like there's not really ever much to say.
Neither of those drivers will be in those seats when Audi's takeover happens, I think.
I reckon both of them will be in there.
Do you think so?
I reckon
Do
both of them.
you?
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Why is
that?
Because Bottas is, you'd be, you know, Audi coming in, you want someone with that level of experience. He obviously has worked in the German culture with Mercedes for a long time. And he's got a lot of experience developing cars, etc. So I think he's in a position to be a team leader.
I understood the Zhou Guanyu one. I would understand in terms of the marketing it brings.
The marketing
from the
like
Middle, from the East.
Audi and Volkswagen in China, that's by far and away their biggest market. Marketing wise, it's a no-brainer.
I'm surprised about the Bottas one.
That's yeah. Wow.
I feel like they might need something exciting and fresh. It doesn't scream exciting driver lineup.
But then would anybody who you would think go into a new project like that and have to start from the bottom and build it up? You know, if you look at someone like Alonso, he's not really got the time for that.
No.
You know, Sainz probably.
I really felt like Sainz would be perfect for that, but obviously he'd have to wait another year. And he's not going to take another year
if I was Sainz, I'd be going gung ho for that Mercedes seat because he can't afford to hang around either.
No, he absolutely can't. And finally, Williams. Alex Albon has responded to calls for F1 being boring, saying that it's such a tight midfield battle. They're all fighting for points, which is quite exciting, believe it or not. And rumours have also been suggesting that Toto Wolff and Mercedes are discussing discussing with Williams about getting Mercedes Junior star and Prima F2 driver Andrea Kimi Antonelli a drive with the team next season.
I think Antonelli's another one that you got to watch out for. His CV coming through the junior ranks, I've never seen anything like it.
Really?
He's won in everything he's gone into. And early as well. The fact he's jumped straight into F2 and he's Bearman's teammate and he's actually been, pretty close to Bearman so far is really impressive.
Exciting.
But I think in terms of the Formula One being boring thing, the problem is I think people are quite naive. They only look at P1 and P2.
Yeah, you can't look at P1
exactly.
You've got to look at everything.
It's like in the football. If there's almost, if you look at the Premier League, you've got the title race, but you've also got the relegation battle.
Yeah.
And the relegation battle is just as exciting.
Absolutely.
It's the same in Formula One. That midfield race in Jeddah was a really good race.
Yeah.
It's just people just don't like F1.
Yeah.
You just got to look at the whole grid, not just at the top guys.
You've got to invest fully in the whole grid.
Yes, you absolutely have to.
But when you're younger, what you're taught is who's the winner, who won the race. Sports day, who won the race? Racing on any game, who won the race? So you're not really looking at the midfield battle. So it's a little bit of an adjustment.
And Logan Sargent needs to up his game.
Yeah, we all know that Logan Sargent is just there for the American pool.
Yeah,
we know that.
But how long is that going to last?
This season
probably,
maybe 6 months.
Yeah,
probably just this season before they realise they have to do something.
Yeah.
Just before we go, I want to just grab your predictions for this weekend. P1, P2, P3. Rich.
Well, P1 and 2 is fairly obvious. It's got to be Red Bull. I'm going to go P3 Norris.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think McLaren's going to do quite well this weekend.
Okay. What do you reckon?
I'm going to go Verstappen, Perez, Piastri.
Oh, both going McLarens.
Aussie boy on the podium.
Okay. I'm gonna match you. I'm gonna go the same.
Yeah?
Yeah.
There we go.
I like that.
We're supporting McLaren.
We all love McLaren, don't we?
Of course. How do you not?
Of course. Thank you very much, Rich. Thank you, Matisse.
Pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Track GP right here on DR Sports. And make sure you like and subscribe. And we will see you next week after Melbourne. See you then.